Ancient Rome. The name conjures, images of gladiators, emperors, and a vast empire. But Rome's story actually begins much earlier, long before it ruled the Mediterranean. Our journey starts around the 8th century BC, in central Italy, along the banks of the Tiber River. Here, amidst rolling hills and fertile land, a small settlement emerged. This was Rome in its infancy, a humble village with little hint of the grandeur to come. The people who established this early settlement weren't yet the mighty Romans of history. They were farmers, shepherds, and traders, just eking out a living from the land. Life was simple, focused mostly on survival and community. Yet, even in these early days, there were signs of ambition, a desire to grow and prosper. The location of Rome proved to be a strategic advantage. Situated on a navigable river, it offered access to trade routes and communication. The surrounding hills provided natural defenses, protecting the settlement from invaders. These geographical blessings would play a crucial role in Rome's rise to power. As the settlement grew, it attracted people from neighboring regions, bringing with them diverse skills and customs. This melting pot of cultures contributed to Rome's evolving identity. Little did these early Romans know that their humble village would one day become the heart of a vast empire, leaving an indelible mark on history. Every great civilization has its founding myths, stories that explain its origins and shape its identity. These tales are more than just legends. They are the threads that bind a people together, giving them a sense of purpose and belonging. For the Romans, their story began long before marble temples and mighty armies, in a world of gods, heroes, and fate. Rome is, of course, no exception. The legend of Romulus and Remus, twin brothers raised by a she-wolf, is deeply ingrained in Roman consciousness. This myth is not just a story told to children, but a powerful symbol that echoed through Roman art, literature, and public life for centuries. According to the legend, the twins were abandoned as infants, left to die by the river Tiber. But fate intervened. A she-wolf, drawn by their cries, discovered them and nursed them back to health, sheltering them in her den. This miraculous survival was seen as a sign that the gods themselves favored the twins, and by extension the city they would one day found. As the twins grew, so did their ambitions. They decided to found a city together, but soon quarreled over its location and leadership. The conflict turned deadly. Romulus killed Remus in a fit of rage, or, as some versions say, in defense of his vision. With Remus gone, Romulus became the sole founder, giving his name to the city, Rome. This act of fratricide, though tragic, was seen by later Romans as a symbol of the harsh choices and sacrifices required to build greatness. This legend, though likely more fiction than fact, reveals a lot about the Romans' self-perception. It speaks of their belief in their own destiny, their capacity for both violence and loyalty, and the importance of foundation myths in shaping a collective identity. The story of Romulus and Remus was retold in countless forms, reminding Romans of their humble beginnings and the divine favor that set them apart from other peoples. Whether true or not, the story of Romulus and Remus served as a powerful symbol of Rome's origins and its destined rise to greatness. It was a tale that inspired pride, unity, and a sense of exceptionalism among Romans, reinforcing the idea that their city was born from struggle and destined for glory. In reality, the early days of Rome were marked by a period of monarchy. From roughly 753 to 509 BC, a series of kings ruled the city. These early rulers, both legendary and historical, laid the foundations for what would become one of the greatest cities in history. The monarchy era was a time of experimentation, growth, and constant change. These kings, some of whom may have been Etruscan, a neighboring and influential civilization, oversaw Rome's expansion and development. They built temples to honor the gods, organized the military to defend and expand the city's territory, and established the basic political and religious structures that would endure for centuries. Under their rule, Rome transformed from a small settlement into a thriving city-state. However, Roman kingship was not destined to last. Over time, resentment grew among the aristocracy and leading families towards the king's power and their sometimes autocratic rule. The desire for greater participation in government and the fear of tyranny began to simmer beneath the surface. In 509 BC, the last king, Tarquin the Proud, was overthrown in a popular uprising. This event marked a dramatic turning point in Roman history, as the people rejected the rule of kings and embraced a new political order. The expulsion of Tarquin was not just a change in leadership, but a revolution in Roman values and identity, ushering in a new era, the Roman Republic. The expulsion of the kings and the establishment of a system where power was shared among elected officials became a defining moment in Roman identity. It was a rejection of absolute rule and an embrace of collective governance, principles that would shape the Roman world for centuries to come. The Republic, with its Senate and assemblies, would become the model for future generations, and the memory of the early kings would serve as a warning against the dangers of unchecked power. The Roman Republic, born from the ashes of monarchy, faced, well, numerous challenges. In its earliest days, Rome was little more than a small city-state surrounded by powerful and often hostile neighbors. The transition from monarchy to republic was not a smooth one, and the fledgling government had to prove itself both to its own people and to the world beyond its walls. Neighboring tribes saw Rome's vulnerability and sought to exploit it. The Etruscans, Sabines, Volsci, and Aequi all launched attacks, hoping to seize the city or at least weaken its influence. Each new threat forced the Romans to adapt, to innovate, and to fight for their survival. Internally, tensions simmered between the patricians, the wealthy elite, and the plebeians, the common people. The patricians controlled most of the land and political power, while the plebeians struggled for a voice in the new republic. This social divide threatened to tear Rome apart from within. Yet, the republic proved resilient. Despite the odds, Rome's citizens found ways to unite in times of crisis, drawing strength from their shared identity and determination to defend their city. Through a combination of military prowess, strategic alliances, and internal reforms, Rome not only survived, but thrived. The city's leaders learned to balance ambition with pragmatism, forging partnerships with former enemies and adapting their tactics to new challenges. The early centuries of the Republic were marked by almost constant warfare. Rome's armies marched out year after year, defending their territory and seeking new opportunities for expansion. These campaigns were grueling, but they forged a sense of discipline and unity among the Roman people. Rome's army, composed of citizen soldiers, proved to be a formidable force. Every able-bodied male citizen was expected to serve, creating a deep connection between military service and civic duty. Driven by a sense of duty and the promise of land, these soldiers fought with discipline and tenacity. For many, military service was a path to social advancement, and the rewards of victory were shared among the ranks. Gradually, Rome extended its control over neighboring Latin tribes, incorporating them into its growing sphere of influence. Each conquest brought new resources, new citizens, and new challenges to the Republic. Rome's success in warfare was not solely due to military might. The Senate and generals understood that lasting power required more than just victory on the battlefield. The Romans were also skilled diplomats, adept at forging alliances and exploiting divisions among their enemies. They often negotiated treaties that turned rivals into allies or at least neutralized potential threats. They understood that dividing their opponents was often more effective than conquering them outright. By playing one tribe against another, Rome could expand its influence with minimal bloodshed. By offering conquered peoples varying degrees of autonomy and citizenship, Rome fostered a sense of loyalty and cooperation, securing its conquests and expanding its influence. This policy of inclusion, rare for the time, helped transform former enemies into partners in Rome's growing empire. As Rome's power grew, so too did internal tensions. The city's rapid expansion brought wealth, but also new inequalities and social strains. The plebeians, who made up the bulk of the army, demanded greater political rights and economic opportunities. Their protests and strikes, known as secessions, forced the patricians to listen. This struggle between the patricians and plebeians, known as the conflict of the orders, lasted for centuries and resulted in significant reforms. It was a long and often bitter contest, but it ultimately reshaped the Republic. New laws were passed, including the 12 Tables, which codified Roman law and provided some protection for the plebeians. These laws were displayed publicly, ensuring that all citizens could know their rights and responsibilities. These reforms, although gradually achieved, strengthened the Republic by addressing social inequalities and fostering a greater sense of unity among its citizens. Through struggle, adaptation, and innovation, Rome laid the foundations for an empire that would one day rule the Mediterranean world. By the 3rd century BC, Rome had emerged as the dominant power in Italy. Its armies had conquered neighboring tribes and cities, uniting the Italian peninsula under Roman rule. The city's influence stretched from the rolling hills of Tuscany to the fertile plains of Campania, and its roads and infrastructure connected distant regions like never before. With Italy firmly under its control, Rome's attention now turned towards a new and formidable rival, Carthage, a wealthy and powerful city-state located on the coast of North Africa, near modern-day Tunis. Carthage, with its vast maritime empire, dominated the western Mediterranean. Its powerful navy controlled vital trade routes, and its merchants grew rich from commerce that spanned from Spain to the Near East. This economic and military strength posed a significant threat to Roman ambitions for expansion and security. The clash between these two rising powers was honestly inevitable. Their interests collided over influence, trade, and territory, leading to a series of epic conflicts known as the Punic Wars, wars that would shape the fate of the ancient world. The First Punic War, which raged from 264 to 241 BC, erupted over control of the strategic island of Sicily. Sicily was not only a fertile land, but also a crucial crossroads for trade and military movement between Europe and Africa. Rome, traditionally a land power with little experience at sea, was forced to adapt quickly to naval warfare. The Romans innovated by building their own fleet, even reverse engineering captured Carthaginian ships, and inventing new boarding devices like the corvus to give their soldiers an advantage in ship-to-ship combat. After years of brutal fighting and heavy losses on both sides, Rome's determination paid off. They constructed a powerful fleet and after a long and costly conflict, defeated the Carthaginian navy, seizing control of Sicily. This victory marked a turning point in Roman history, establishing Rome as a major naval power for the first time. It extended Roman influence beyond the Italian peninsula and set the stage for further expansion across the Mediterranean. The Second Punic War, from 218 to 201 BC, is perhaps the most famous of the three Punic Wars, largely due to the extraordinary military exploits of the Carthaginian general Hannibal Barca. Hannibal was a brilliant strategist, raised from childhood to hate Rome and determined to restore Carthaginian power. In a daring and unprecedented move, Hannibal led his army, including his famous war elephants, on a perilous journey across the Alps. Braving harsh weather, treacherous terrain, and constant attacks, he brought his forces into Italy, catching the Romans off guard. Once in Italy, Hannibal inflicted a series of crushing defeats on Roman legions, most notably at the Battle of Cannae in 216 BC. There, his tactical genius allowed a smaller Carthaginian force to encircle and destroy a much larger Roman army, shocking the ancient world. However, despite his victories, Hannibal ultimately could not deliver a decisive blow against Rome itself. The city's walls held firm, and Roman resolve only hardened in the face of adversity. The Romans, displaying their characteristic resilience and adaptability, regrouped and, under the brilliant leadership of Scipio Africanus, shifted the war to Africa. They forced Hannibal to return home to defend Carthage. At the Battle of Zama in 202 BC, Scipio decisively defeated Hannibal in a dramatic confrontation. This victory effectively ended the Second Punic War and secured Roman supremacy in the region. The victory at Zama cemented Rome's dominance in the western Mediterranean, transforming it from a regional power into a true Mediterranean superpower. Carthage, once a formidable power and Rome's greatest rival, was reduced to a Roman vassal state, its influence and independence shattered. Through determination, innovation, and sheer resilience, Rome had proven its ability to overcome even the most formidable enemies, setting the stage for its rise as the dominant force in the ancient world.